What's going on, everybody? It's Childish. We're back at it again with the next episode of Educate and Dominate, that one-on-one interview series where we take some of the top names of the game and get their insights so we can bring your game to the next level. Welcome back once again, our boy Onceinluv, featuring the episode number 3 of the Operation Mid-Game. How are we doing today, sir?
Doing good, like always. New coffee, new day.
New
Different coffee
coffee,
this
new
time, though.
day.
No more McDonald's.
And I promise you guys, this is all new episodes here. This is my third monster right here. This is sick. I tell you what, man. I'm just all fired up right now. I can't even control myself. The energy is real. The energy is real. So
Solid product placement.
I know, right? You gotta love it. You gotta love it. But so again, if you're new to the channel, welcome to the channel. A couple of weeks back, we introduced a new series, new addition to the series, Operation Mid-Game for my Educate and Dominate series. And we have talked about what we can do for those mid-game players when it comes to the different aspects of the game. First episode, we focused on the Giants. And then the second episode, we focused on the Trial of Ascension and moving our way forward. And now, with our recommendations from once, the next stage to hit up is going to be that Dragons stage. So let's get right into it. If there was something that you wanted to put a disclaimer to all your subscribers, your fans out there, what would that be and why?
The first thing I would suggest to you guys is don't rush into Dragons after you finish Giants. Don't rush into Dragons before you finish Giants. You need good runes to do Dragons effectively.
But
it's very important.
I just want to go into Dragons. Everybody got these Dragons P10 speed runs. I want to do it right now.
But
why can't I?
You don't need violent runes to do the early game. All you need is Swift runes, right? Swift runes and Swift sets give you stats. Violent runes and violent sets gives you a beneficial effect. If you don't have runes that are better than your already made stat-based sets, then you're not getting anything out of it, right? You can't run a 120 speed Bella. That doesn't work. You have to run a 170 or higher speed Bella or she's not going to be fast enough.
Right, definitely. So as we always start out with regards to these different segments here, focusing on what you like to call the core units. With regards to Dragons, it looks like we got a couple of them that are interchangeable. Let's go ahead and give us a heads up on which one you feel are going to be the core units in this particular stage.
So the first two core units, Vermos and Bella, 100%. They're already well runed from Giants. They're well runed from TOA. You probably have really solid Swift runes on them. Those are going to be your first two core units. Your third core unit is going to be Megan, the Water Mystic Witch. She has an amazing kit for Dragons. First skill, continuous damage. Second skill, it's a two-part skill. So the first part of the skill is a buff strip. And the second part of which removes one beneficial effect, and the second part of the skill is a beneficial effect block. The beneficial effect block portion is not important for Dragons, but the buff stripping is important. Megan can strip the immunity off the boss, which the right tower applies. And then her third skill is an attack and defense buff that also gives attack gauge. So attack gauge is really important in Dragons, just like it is in TOA. Basically, you don't want to be giving any of the enemies too many turns because the crystals in Dragons can defense break you and Zyros can reset you at the third stage and the boss can keep stacking dots on you and you probably won't be able to cleanse it fast enough.
Right. Yeah, this is an amazing unit. I remember the first time. I gotta put a disclaimer out there. A sad, maybe sad but good story. When I got started in the game back in May and June of 2014, we had a lot of units that we were playing around with, testing out different things. Believe it or not, since I was so focused on PvP coming from different games, I knew that this unit was a pretty clutch unit early on, and this was actually my first 6-star unit. Hashtag epic fail. So funny, a lot of people gave me some criticism as I was posting on appinvasion.com. I was a big part of their community there, and believe it or not, I still use this unit to this day. So it's really cool to be able to 6-star unit such early on and find a lot of value in it. So it's good to see that it's being incorporated in aspects of the game that we're talking about now for sure. Let's see. So we talked about the Vermos, we talked about the Bella, we talked about the Megan. Out of these 3 units, or is there any other units you would add to this, or what would be the next kind of like +1 or +2 units to bring to your comps?
So the next question is, do you have Verd or do you not have Verd?
I have Verd.
Okay, so you have Verd, 100% use Verd. If you don't have Verd, we have other options for you. We have free-to-play options and we have non-free-to-play options. So Bird is the absolute king in starting Dragons teams. And the reason for this is because, firstly, he has a dungeon leader skill of 28%.
Mm-hmm.
He is the right element for this dungeon. You know, he's neutral, so he can't glance. And he has this amazing passive where you get 20% attack bar for all of your units every single time you crit.
Yep.
So it's kind of like Bernard on crack.
Basically. I'll tell you what, though. Gotta have him. Gotta have him. So
he's definitely key.
Now, Vertihill, we're coming off of the recommendations on TOA. You know, we've been talking about focusing on getting that speed on 2, critical rate on 4, and then HP on 6. I would have to guess that the rune recommendation on this particular unit is not going to change. You're going to want him to provide the support that he needs, and not, you know, make that change, you know, for attack on 6. Is that right?
It's a little different with Vert. I find it depends what sets you run.
Okay.
I think I'd like to come back to actually the rune sets for Verd and rune recommendations after we talk about the +1, +2 units, because they're going to be different based on each type of team that you use.
Great point. Great point. All right. And so with regards to the additional units to go after Verd, what would you like to add to that mix?
First most common unit is Sigmaris. Free-to-play unit, great in Dragons.
Gotta have them.
So going back to Elemental Advantage, 15% bonus crit rate. Sigmaris awakens into crit rate, I believe. So you have 30% crit rate right off the bat. If you crit on a max HP scaling attack on a boss, you will do tons of damage. So Sigmaris' third skill, totally relevant. Amazing, does tons of damage. It's quite safe too because it attack breaks. Sigmaris is also great in non-Vert teams because you can use the leader skill for a little bit of extra HP past Veramos. Other options, you have units like Spectra. Spectra provides you an AoE slow debuff for both the towers and the boss, attack bar reduction, as well as another max HP scaling nuke. And it's a really fast unit. So the thing with Spectra, though, is you have to be careful. Spectra has quite low base stats at 6-star because he is a Nat 3 compared to a Nat 4 or a Nat 5, Sigmaris, Verd, etc. Other units I would suggest that are actually pretty effective, another free-to-play unit would be Theomars, your water Ifrit, which you would get from guild points farming Ifrit summons. First skill, he's got a speed scaling attack that leaves a dot, and second skill, triple attack defense break, as well as having a passive that gives him bonus crit rate on everything, which is actually really important. Something people don't realize in dungeons is that, or specifically in Kairos dungeons, crystals have no elements. So you're always neutral element to a crystal, which means you can't get an elemental advantage, except unless you're Theomars. So Theomars can actually build for 85 crit rate, and he will always crit the crystals. Whereas for other units, if you want to always crit the crystals, you have to be 100%.
Gotcha. And so, you know, keep in mind, even though it is a free-to-play thing, one thing to mention if you are in the mid-game stages, this is a unit that you will have to summon via the guild points that you get in Guild Wars. So, you know, one of the definitely recommendations that I'm sure Once and myself would make on this particular situation is if you have the opportunity early on, try to get yourself involved in a guild so you can start collecting those points for the free rainbow mods, those free Ifrits. You know, take advantage of all the rewards that this game has to offer. So it's obviously not going to come the first time around, not for everybody anyway. So you know, make sure you're doing your work and try to take advantage of all these different features the game has to offer for sure. So.
So I guess one more thing before we go into more units, more of a disclaimer, I guess it's a little late for that, but I don't believe in tower teams. I don't believe in going right, left, left, right, boss, whatever. I believe only in face teams. I believe that if you don't have the runes to do a face team, and yes, I say runes, I don't say units. Verd is not necessary for a face team, but he makes it easier. If you don't have the runes for a face team, you should probably just go back to Giants and get better runes.
That's something that we don't want to hear, but we need to hear. I like it because there's a lot of opposition.
I don't like telling people that they need to like go back to Giants, but I don't like people coming back and being like, "Why is my success rate 40%?" I can't just be like, "I don't know, man. You need better units." No, you need better runes. You need better runes.
Right, and it's always a gamble.
You need to be faster, and you need to be tankier. It's just how it is.
And if you think about it too, with regards to dragons, it's always a gamble too, because if you do focus on one of those towers, while you may have a team that can self-sustain and bring you back to life or whatever, it's always a gamble. That dragon can kill any one of the units, whoever finishes it off. It's not a guarantee that the dots will clear it off if you're using a dot team or whatever. So yeah, I'm really down with what you're saying there. I like it.
I think face teams, people are scared of building face teams because they don't have Verd, so they don't have enough speed, but also because they try to use all these weird units together when they're missing the core units and the right speed syncing. And yes, I say speed syncing. I know a lot of people think speed syncing and think of, oh, I need a speed sync AO so I don't get interrupted. I need a speed sync team for speed dragons or speed giants. There's very base sync level syncing. It's not that hard. You know, don't be scared. I'll explain it in this episode when we get to the rune quality portion. But it's really important that you get the right speeds on your unit and the right relative speeds.
Gotcha. And with regards to that, the speeds and the relative speeds, when we're talking about the core units, there's a lot of things that we can, talk about when it comes to speed. And you made a great note off topic or off camera that we were talking about the concept of one of the most understood things about speed tuning your units, and it comes with regards to Megan and Bella. Can you go ahead and elaborate on that?
So when you're using Megan and Bella together in Dragons, because they're both buff stripping units, ideally you want Megan to always move before Bella, because Megan will use her buff strip if the boss has immunity, and then Bella will defense break if you've successfully stripped the buff. The reason this is better is, unlike certain bosses, the most dangerous, unlike certain dungeons, I guess is more what I'm trying to say, the boss stage in Dragons is extremely dangerous. Once you drop the boss below 30% health, his damage increases like ridiculously. Mm-hmm. So if you're taking a long time to kill the boss, you're probably going to die. So increasing the speed at which you can kill the boss effectively is going to increase your success rate most likely.
I love it.
If you're not lingering in that 30% zone for too long, you're probably golden.
I like that. You were looking at the camera, you're like, you're probably gonna die. That's awesome.
It happens that way a lot.
I know. It's so crazy because it's like we don't want to. It's like I was saying before, we don't want to. It's not what you want to hear, but what you need to hear sometimes. It's like if you don't make these changes or make these particular setups, it's gonna be a struggle. But that's what it comes down to: trial and error, and mixing it up so you can do what you can do. So, any other +1 units we want to add to this?
So I'm going to go for a lot nicer units now. We're going to go for the luxury units. Taor. The Water Chimera is the #1 best Dragons unit in the game. The reason for this is because that second skill is speed scaling, and he's got tons of base attack. The speed scaling on this attack is higher than speed scaling on almost every other attack. I think it's top 2. I'm not sure if it's #1 or not, but it hits really, really hard. And when you skill it up, it's on a 2-turn cooldown. The other thing that's amazing about Taor, first of all, he awakens in a crit rate. Second of all, over 900 base attack. Those two things together are amazing. It means you need low crit rate requirements, and you can run Fatal Set very effectively. So when skilled up, 2-turn cooldown on a second skill, which is a speed scaling attack, which means that Vertihile's leader skill gives you more damage. If you crit, you get an attack speed bonus for attack speed buff for 2 turns, which you can basically constantly recycle because you're always going to be critting. And your third skill is the #1 most important factor. The third skill has a 3-turn AoE slow debuff on units on the units that you don't target. So if you're targeting the boss, you have the potential to slow debuff both towers for 3 turns.
Very nice.
Is like one of the safest skills. If this lands on the right tower or the left tower means you're killing the boss faster. Left tower means you're safer because you're getting less dots on you.
I love it.
This unit is undeniably like a god when it comes to dragons.
And how many?
When I started, I have 2.
Oh, okay. I just say hashtag.
I pulled the first one before I started farming giants, and I pulled the second one on my birthday about a month ago.
Must be nice.
It is nice. It is nice. Koro's jealous. Variant's jealous.
Yeah.
You're jealous.
Very jealous. Very jealous. Very jealous. And so
I don't think Fwa has one either.
I don't think he does either. No, I think
a lot of people want this unit.
Really good unit.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I guess besides Taor, the only other real luxury unit that I would put in a starting Dragons team, maybe Poseidon.
I like Poseidon.
So Poseidon's really good because first skill debuff transfer. You can throw a dot away from you. Second skill, I believe, is the silence.
Mm-hmm.
And then third skill is AoE slow debuff and attack gauge reduction. So on top of Poseidon being like one of the best PvP units in the game because he counters Nemesis and he has a 33% attack lead, Poseidon also has the potential to slow debuff the right and left tower while still doing relevant damage. He doesn't have nearly as much damage as Teor, but he's still quite a safe unit because he has high base stats. High base HP, high base defense, and decent speed.
And for that rare 1% of people that may have this unit be able to incorporate it, obviously this unit comes with that universal leader skill provided that damage. Do you still it's valuable to use Vertihill's speed low over an attack power?
Yes, 100%.
Okay.
I doubt you guys will have, if you're doing a starting Dragons team, you probably don't have the rune quality to use any other leader skill unless you're running like an HP leader for safety.
Gotcha. Cool. Awesome. All right. And there wasn't any other units that you could think of to add that may or may not be luxury that would be good for that? Without getting into all the speed kind of comps and use in that aspect?
Maybe Water Fairy King, but probably not.
Yeah.
The only reason I would suggest Water Fairy King is because he can buff strip on his first skill.
Good point.
But in general, he just doesn't do enough damage in Dragons really to be effective for a starting team. I would probably rather run Sigmaris or Theo in that case. Gotcha.
So that ultimate starting team, you got Veramos, we got Megan, we got Bella, and then the incorporation of either Spectra, Sigmaris, Theo, and I can't think of anything else as far as the easily obtainable units, more or less?
Pretty much. Another thing you can do is if you're worried about running a team that doesn't have enough healing or enough cleansing, you can also run units like Konomiya, you can run units like Praha, you can run units like Wusa, Velajul, you can run immunity units, you can run cleansers, you can run healers. Mm-hmm. If you have a non-Verd team, a lot of people will run Sigmaris as the fourth unit and then a cleanser or a healer as the fifth unit or an immunity if they have it. Something that's not Delphoy, something like maybe a Draco or a Velajul, something like that.
I used Draco actually for a very, very long time in there. Most people wouldn't think about it, but it was great having, I think it was Megan, Bella. I don't know why I had Draco, Megan, and Bella, but I had three ways of manipulating attack bars, so I was getting so much extra turns versus the boss that it was crazy before I got the Vertihill, whatever. So it definitely could play a role, even though it doesn't seem like it. It definitely does a good job. Let me see.
Immunity is definitely underrated. Like, even if you do have a Verd team, like Verd, Vero, Bella, Megan, plus a safer unit is okay, right? It's going to be slower, but it as long as you're getting 100% runs, you're getting the runes you're getting. I would almost always suggest getting 95% plus success rate on your runs and go slower. Like if you're getting, let's say, 80% at 230, or you're getting 100% at 330, 345, I would definitely pick the 335. Unless you're like a really, really heavy pay-to-play crystal spending player where you can just constantly refill and you don't really care about your efficiency, then maybe you can pick, the 80% success rate. But even me, like I pay really heavily into this game. I enjoy playing it a lot. I refill every day. I probably play for 14, 15 hours a day. I always choose safe teams. Like my Dragons team, I have the potential to go under a minute quite effectively with my units. Like I have Perna, I have Faye, double Teors, I have Stella. But I'm always going to go back to my 130, 100% team, which is Verd, Vero, Bella, Galleon, Teor. Because I just don't see the value in failing, right? Gotcha. Especially at the longer runs. Like you're at a 3-minute run, you fail that, you wasted 3 minutes of your time, and you wasted 8 energy.
Yeah.
That's a lot. That's legitimately a lot of your time.
And with regards to, some of the things that we do along the way, obviously we've been focused on a lot of PvE aspects. I'm sure we'll be getting to more PvP content, later in different episodes. But with regards to, recommendations that people should focus on when it comes to like the arena towers and levels or whatnot, any particular recommendations you could give?
The mid-game arena life. Suggestion, climb as high as you can, set a fake defense of like 1 unit, and just drop and keep farming up every day. Try not to drop out a fighter if you can help it, because that 1 extra point is important. Ideally, you want to go for list clears, but it depends. Just try to win. You get in fighter 4 points for winning, 5 for conqueror, 3 for challenger. If you lose, you get 1 point, which is a notable difference. I guess suggestions along that. There's the standard idea for arena towers. The first thing you get every week, you get your double one, of course. Next thing, A lot of people suggest getting your energy towers, getting both of them. I don't know how I feel about getting the energy regeneration tower. I like the max energy tower, the Sanctum of Energy. 100% I would suggest maxing that out. Some people will only bring it to 8. Some people bring it to 4. I 100% would max that out. When you do the math for after, let's say, like 100 refills, you save so much energy and so many crystals on it. The next thing you want to do, there's 2 options, depending on how fast you want to progress. One, you can buy every single one of the towers to level 1 because they give you 2% or 3% base stats. Or you can bring speed all the way up to 9 first. The reason I personally suggest speed up to 9 is because you get 14% speed, and that is amazing. Like, that is 14% speed is just over half a Swift set on every single unit that you have.
Yep.
Think about when you first started doing Giants and, you didn't have any Swift sets. You put a Swift set on, you're like, man, I'm so fast now. You get that level 9 tower, like, you just gained another half a Swift set on every unit.
For sure.
Speed is key for both safety and for speedrunning. Like, it's useful for everything in the game, and it'll always be useful. Another suggestion, between level 9 and 10 on the speed tower, I would not suggest getting level 10 until much later in the game because the cost for it is just over 2,000 glory points, and it's not really worth the 1% extra speed until you are at the point where you've maxed quite a few towers.
Gotcha. And any of the towers after the speed to level 9 that you would focus on?
Crit damage max. Inexpensive and effective on almost every unit.
Gotcha. What's your take on the HP tower? Where would you place on that one?
I do HP and defense equally. So currently I have a level 9, I have one of everything, level 9 speed and max crit damage. Both my HP and defense are at 5, and I'm not touching my attack towers until I max my HP and defense towers. The reason for that is I want safer TOA hard teams and I want safer raid teams.
Very, very cool. And so obviously way down the road is when we'll start getting a little bit more specific when it comes to like the elemental stuff or whatnot. And like, I'm sure that's going to play a role in which units you have or whatnot.
Definitely.
Cool.
A common thing that people do is they level their wind towers right after they finish the crit damage tower, but I personally think HP and defense are more valuable. A lot of people want to go for their devolution immediately.
But who needs speed towers when you got all these mystical scrolls and elemental scrolls? Let's just go for these, right?
So this is something you can do with guild points, in my opinion. I don't think there's a value in spending your glory points on fire, wind, water, elemental, etc. scrolls until you've maxed out your towers. And the reason for this is because if you think about how many wins it takes to get one of those scrolls, you're detrimenting yourself by taking away from like an item that will give you permanent stats.
Right. Yep.
Just for one piece of fodder.
Gotcha. That's crazy though. That's crazy. Did you have anything to add with regards to like the glory shop? Any other things you wanted to focus on here?
Not too much, I don't think. I don't think there's anything really too relevant besides, suggestions on towers, tower order. Yeah, not really. Glory shop is pretty straight cut.
Straightforward, yeah. Right on. So when I'm thinking about like dragons being and whatnot, obviously our ultimate goal is to farm a new array of runes or whatnot, and one of the ones that we all hear so much about in the game today is the violent set. For those that are newer to the game, as far as what you could do, you guys know that you can take a look at the monsters used. In addition to that, you could take a look at the drop info and see what different rune sets or whatnot that can drop in this mix. Violent being kind of one of the more predominant sets that people focus on. What's your take on the first units that you want to start putting on a violent set, and why?
The absolute first unit I would put on violent is not Veramos.
Not Veramos. Ooh.
I think putting Veramos on violent first is a trap for most people. It would be more effective to get your Bella Dion on violent if your Bella is solo healing. If your Bella is not solo healing, you may consider putting it on your Veramos, but if you put the violent set on Bella, you may actually be able to solo heal, and you can drop your second healer for a damage dealer.
I like it. And that's the best thing about Bella Dion. As you guys know, her AI is extremely good. I don't know if you were around once when it came out. I believe you were, when they made that big change for the improved AI on Megan and Bella and the units of that sort, being able to effectively use their beneficial buff removal in addition to beneficial buff on both of the units. It started to work in such that you can use it, and it'll use it when the benefit is up. Their beneficial buff is up. So it really kind of smoothed out some of the people's run times because they didn't have so much overlap and wasting of skills.
Yeah,
it's really nice.
Pretty much. Yeah. So I guess quickly to touch back on towers, my suggestion, by the time you're reaching Dragons B10 and thinking about it, you're probably about 3 to 4, maybe 5 months into the game, depending on how much you farm, how effectively you use it. I mean, if you summon a lot of premium packs, it might take you longer based on your rune quality from farming. But by then you should probably have like around a level 5 speed tower or higher. Just from farming your daily wings. Try really, really hard to do wings, guys. It's really important. Wings in the early game help you so much. And I know sometimes it's a struggle. If you don't have nukers, you can't speed clear. I can't Lucian that defense. Just it's fine. Just slow clear the defenses. Even if you build a team that can auto arena, like that's fine. But you need to win because you need that glory. That glory is more important early game than it is in the later game.
Most definitely. And the rune sets, in earlier episodes we talk about the rune sets and making sure that we're using sets that give us stats versus sets that just going to provide us with certain beneficial effects. Does that still incorporate with regards to Dragon? Do we still keep that same concept?
Yeah, I think that's definitely something in a starting team for sure. I would say sets that give stats are still more important. Once you start speeding things up, then we can explain, the difference between using violent attackers, non-violent attackers, violent supports, non-violent supports. But yeah, I think for now, like when you're starting, you definitely want to have stats. Stats are really important.
Yeah, I kind of wanted to do a quick mention here too. When we've kind of overlooked these first 3 episodes, we've seen this trend of certain units to focus on with regards to the core units, and some of those core units bleeding into the TOA segment. In addition to adding a couple other units like Beretta for an example, and then as we move into Beretta Sigmarix, for example, and then as we work our way into Dragons, as you can see, once it's kind of geared toward even some more units that are kind of part of the core now, and even so much as we got Veramos, we got Megan, we got Bella, now we're incorporating Sigmarix and Spectra, which we've already focused on through that progression of Giants to TOA. So what I'm trying to get at is that even though this unit provides us so many different unique units in the game, and it makes us kind of want to test out new things and be creative, at the end of the day, we still say have fun. But if you are trying to use this educational series in order to improve your progression and cut down the stress that can come along with not being able to get to a certain level, definitely follow these guidelines to work your way through, because at the end of the day, in order to do everything that we want to do in the end game, we have to have these runes. This Kairos dungeon, these Trial of Ascension is the foundation of where we're coming at here. So really, really big thing to focus on. And I'm glad that you kind of pointed out with regards to some of these units that kind of intertwine between different segments. So big shout out to you, my man.
Thanks. So another actual really important tip, when you're working towards starting Dragons, I would suggest thinking about it a week or 2 before rune removal and actually testing it on rune removal. The reason I say this is because if you put all your good runes on your Dragons team, and you find out you can't farm Dragons, well, I mean, you're hooped for a whole month, or you have to waste a ton of mana reruning your Giants team. Gotcha. Right? If you do it on rune removal day, you figure out you can't do it, you just put your units right back into the Giants runes for your Giants team, and you just keep farming Giants.
There you go.
Don't detriment yourself. You don't waste time.
Right. And this episode should be coming out right around the movable day, so please take note on that. Plan accordingly so that you can take advantage, full advantage of those 24 hours for sure.
With that note, another really important thing, guys, in the early game, I really do suggest not using the optimizer for new players. Using the optimizer teaches you nothing in the early game. It doesn't teach you how to find the right runes with different stats. It kind of just tells you to put random stuff together. I think using the optimizer is not beneficial to new players. I think I'm really, really firm about that point. I always recommend it. The reason being, again, I can't emphasize this more than anything. If you learn how to do your runes manually, you will understand the value of getting each rune, which means you will understand how to pick runes when you're farming a lot better.
Gotcha. Very, very cool. Awesome. Wow, there's so much information there. We're gonna have to rerun this episode back. I'm gonna have to re-listen to it again.
This is a good episode. I'm really passionate about Dragons because I probably get asked about this, I'd say 15 to 20 times a day per stream.
It's crazy.
I get asked, how can I start my Dragons team?
Yep.
What units do you suggest? What am I looking for with stats, etc.? Does my Verd have to be Violent Revenge?
Exactly.
Oh,
Awesome.
probably the most common question in the world.
Right, right, right. With regards to the Dragons B10 in this particular episode, is there anything that you could think of you wanted to add before we kind of close out the video?
Yeah, we should go over the stats and sets for units.
Yeah, buddy. All
Because we
right.
were going to come back to that, and I almost forgot about it.
That would have been our epic fail, but we didn't get it in. Gosh, you should have let me fail. What's wrong with you, man?
Hey, man, I'm here to help you.
I know, I know. Let's take a look at it. All right, so let's go to the monster box here. Take a look. Should we focus on Veramos first?
Yeah, let's go through all the core units. So Veramos, if you're on Swift, ideally 200 plus. So that's going to be speed slot 2 plus Swift set, plus about probably 10 speed per rune.
Mhm.
And then you probably want to go HP defense or double HP for your 4 and 6. Accuracy-wise, 40 to 50 is still fine. For Dragons, I usually suggest 55% accuracy, but for Veramos, it's not too necessary to focus on the accuracy. I would rather get it on Bella first.
Okay.
So with Bella, because she's buff stripping and it's pretty essential as well as the defense break, you probably want, again, if you're putting it on Swift, you want to just go really fast. So probably like 200 speed and then 55% accuracy. I would actually run double HP on Bella instead of HP defense because Bella is a nat 3 with nat 3 stats, where raw HP is more important in my opinion.
Gotcha.
With Megan, well, actually, sorry, one more thing. Let me reiterate. When you put Bella on Violent, 170 is fine for starting. You ideally want to go faster, but 170 is okay to start with. Now with Megan, there's a few different things. So because we talked about how we want Megan to always go faster than Bella, there are 2 different ways you can build Megan. So the first way is if there's no Verd involved. So if there's no Verd involved, you want Megan to be ideally 12 to 13 speed faster than Bella. And that's because of the base speed difference. So after you take into account your speed tower, you want Megan to still go before Bella every single time. So you need about 13 or 14 more speed than Bella to always go first. If you're using Verd, you also have to take into account a 28% leader skill. So you need Megan to be 17 speed or faster, more than Bella.
Gotcha.
So if your Bella's at 200, your Megan has to be 217 or 218, etc.
Gotcha. Cool.
And I understand that'll be hard on your first team. That'll be hard if you're running a Swift Bella, but that's one of the first things you change out. Your Bella goes to Violent, your next best Swift set goes to Megan. Again, 55% accuracy because you're trying to land that debuff. With Megan, she works pretty effectively at 5 stars, but 6-star definitely recommended. She actually doesn't need too much HP. About 15k is usually okay. I used to run my Megan on accuracy slot 6, and it was very effective for me.
Yeah, I definitely saw a vast improvement running the accuracy on 6 and making sure that I'm removing that buff. So
yeah. So next unit, Sigmaris. A lot of people always ask me Sigmaris, Fatal Blade, Violent Blade, Swift Blade, Despair Blade, crit damage, crit rate rune. My suggestion with Sigmaris, because Sigmaris has high base attack and low base speed, I don't usually suggest Swift, but if that's the only way you can get like plus 30 to 40 speed, you can run Swift on Sigmaris. I don't like speed slot 2 unless you're on Violent though. The reason I say this is because I would rather have a hard nuke or be able to cycle turns really fast. If you're on Violent and you're faster, you can cycle your turns faster, which means you're cycling your cooldowns. If you're not on speed slot 2, I would rather have the hard nuke. So with Sigmaris, recommended crit rate is always going to be 85. With elemental advantage, you'll crit on the Zyros and the boss, which max HP scaling on defense break with a crit is amazing. Another possible build for Sigmaris, 100% crit rate. 100% crit rate is not necessarily too difficult to get because Sigmaris awakens into crit rate.
right.
100% crit rate means you will always crit against the crystals. And I know you're thinking, oh no, the crystals are fire. They're fire. It'll be easy. They're not. They're neutral element, which means you don't get an elemental advantage on them. So you need 100% to crit them every single time. Recommended HP plus 4,000 or more. If you're using Sig Lead, plus 2.5, 3,000.
Right on. And what do we got? Spectra is up in there?
Spectra, speed, HP, accuracy, probably, to be honest. I would build him very similar to the TOA build because I really want to land that slow debuff on the towers. You could also run crit rate on slot 4, same as the TOA build, but you definitely want to be tanky enough to survive. If your Spectra is not 6-star, it is not usable in Dragons.
No. And you guys will see that time and time again. I think we've talked about it a few times in the Educate and Dominate. The value of the base stat increase from 5 to 6-star is really, really noticeable. So for some of you guys that are trying to work these comps in and you're like, oh yeah, I'm trying this comp that you recommended, but it's not working. And we look at it, you're running 2 units to the 5-star. Yeah, it's not going to work the way it's intended. So,
but in TOA, you can use Spectra at 5-star, but it's just harder.
Yes.
You need good runes for it.
Right. As your runes improve, you're going to be able to get away with a couple of things for sure. Awesome. And so I know we talked about Sigmaris, we got Spectra, we had Theo in that mix of common units.
Speed, crit, damage, attack. Standard Theo builds, just damage, high crit rate. A lot of people run 81% Theomars because of his passive and his leader skill, 61% crit rate Theomars because of passive and leader skill. I will always recommend 85% because it is more usable in PvE. And it's also means you're non-reliant on his crit rate buff, leader skill.
That's the ultimate goal, honestly, just to be able to get yourself in a situation where your units are so good that you don't have to rely on certain skill sets like that to improve it all. So yeah, I mean, critical rate bonus is really, really good, early on when you get it, I mean, it's even one of the things that we utilize in Rift of Worlds very commonly, but at the end of the day, the goal is to get, continuously build those rune sets and stats and whatnot so that you can optimally have everything that you want in a unit without the use of other combinations and stuff like that. So great stuff.
The other thing is it's really easy to get that crit rate on Theomar since he awakens into crit rate.
Definitely.
Yeah. Teor, Poseidon. Poseidon can go attack crit damage attack or speed crit damage attack. You can really go whatever sets you want. That's not as important. The ones with Teor I find are pretty important. You want speed crit damage attack. I suggest Fatal. I don't really like Swift because, again, low base speed, high base attack. I would always suggest Fatal. Ideally, you want to actually full set him. You don't want to do Broken. Fatal Blade because 85 crit rate is very important on Teor. If you're always critting on the boss, you're always getting a massive damage output on second skill, and you're also always getting your speed buff up for yourself.
Gotcha. All right. And then Poseidon was?
Speed crit damage attack, attack crit damage attack.
Okay.
Just standard damage dealer.
Got it. Cool.
So lastly, the Verd stats.
Ah, yes.
So Verd can be any set you want. Literally any set. You can build him any single way you want. But in a starting team, to be safe, you want him to have about 20k HP, probably plus 200 to 300 defense or more, and 100% crit rate. Now, here's the kicker. When people talk about speed on Vertihile, they're like, oh, you need a really fast Verd. It has to be fast.
Yep.
In a starting team, you actually want Verd to either go second last or last. The reason for this is because when your team takes their turn, by the time it gets to Verd, most of your team has between 40 and 70% attack bar. So when Verd attacks, they all get, a bonus attack bar, and then they can get a second turn before the enemies get one turn.
Really good point to make.
That is super, super important for safety.
Yep.
Although you do want him slower, I would never drop below plus 65 speed on Verd. I think if you're going below plus 65 speed, you're too slow. So you can do this many ways. You can run Swift sets, you can run Blade sets, you can run energy sets, you can run whatever you want. You can run speed on slot 2, you can run not speed on slot 2.
Yep.
But in a starting Verd, it's usually something crit rate HP. So you can either go speed or attack on slot 2, crit rate, and then HP. Or you can even run HP crit rate HP.
Gotcha. Awesome. Alrighty. Was there any other units that you wanted to add to that Vertihile?
Some people use Chilling.
Chilling. You know what? I'm kind of mentioning this because to me, as if people are fortunate enough to get the this unit early on, it can definitely play a role in how they go about mixing and matching their team. But as far as what
There's a little Galleon there on the right.
Let's see. There he is. Chilling. Yeah, I know early on when I first got this, I was really, really excited to do it, but I had my skepticism about it due to its casting speed and whatnot, the animation speed. What's your take on this particular unit, and how would you fit it in?
Chilling is an amazing unit for safety. He is not an amazing unit for speedrunning. The reason for this is because chilling has the best chance to buff strip the boss.
Right.
His first skill and his only attack is 3 hits, which can slow debuff the boss. But with his passive, he has a chance to strip and steal enemy beneficial effects on every single hit. The more beneficial effects chilling has, the faster his speed gets as well. So the other nice thing about chilling is that a second skill is I believe it's attack speed and crit rate buff. For I think 2 turns.
Yes, attack
speed and crit rate. So chilling is extremely safe. If you were to run chilling, most people run chilling really slow to make their runs faster, but it really doesn't matter. You could run your chilling really fast in place of your Megan, or similar to your Megan speed, where you have it go before Bella. And the reason for this is because ideally you still want Bella to defense break.
Cool. Yeah.
With chilling, I would actually recommend higher accuracy. I really, really like running accuracy slot 6 on chilling if I'm going to use it. And I would probably go speed, crit rate, accuracy.
Gotcha.
Or HP if you need more HP.
I was going to say, with him running the critical rate level, you still opt for the critical rate on 4, huh?
I still opt for the critical rate on 4 if I can get at least 17k HP. And the reason is because he's an at-4. He has pretty good base stats.
Okay.
And, you might as well get a little bit of damage out of it, right? He's got higher base attack than defense, so he's going to do more damage. It's similar to Verd in base stat styles. Decent HP, decent attack, lower defense.
Very cool. Awesome, man. Alrighty. Is there anything else you wanted to add with regards to the Dragons episode? What do you think?
I don't think so. I mean, there's a lot to talk about with Verd. So, realistically, you guys can always ask different streamers, different content creators. I stream quite often. Childish streams when he can. There's a lot of different takes that people have on Dragons, but this is mine, and this is mostly from me doing it recently and helping a lot of friends with it. Right. Different options, free-to-play units, non-Verd teams, etc. Right. I was blessed with a Verd really early in the game and a Teor, so it was a lot easier for me. But I have tried different teams with different people's accounts. Sometimes when people, need a rune removal, they messed up their teams on rune removal, so they bought a ticket and asked me to help. Yep. I've tried a lot of different teams. I've tried the Sig, I've tried the Theo, I've tried the Chilling, I've tried the Spectra. All of them are effective as long as your runes are really good. Yep. And again, please don't underestimate doing wings. Your glory towers are amazing for you. They'll help you more than runes in most cases. Permanent stats.
For sure. And I wanted to kind of mention too here, this is like these first 3 episodes, really, getting that knowledge out there to the community. This all kind of stemmed on the concept of what we currently have in the community and certain people trying to provide recommendations based on what they either, see or hear. Some of us are trying to give recommendations that are way ahead of the game or way early in the game. Whereas, like I said, with regards to Once, this is great knowledge because he's really giving it to you in real time. He is in that mid to late game range. He's in that Conquer 2 level. He's given this information based on what he's gathered in the last few months, not something that, from other people that really want to hear. This is the truth. So I'm really excited, again, to have you on board for this mini-series. Thank you so much for everything that you've done for the community, sir.
Yeah, no worries. I really appreciate, being here. Like, it's great to be able to help people on a larger scale like this, something where people can refer to it instead of always just, coming to the stream and asking. I mean, as much as getting a live answer is great, having something to look back on later when you need to is definitely effective.
Exactly. So again, if you are new to the channel, make sure you go ahead and tune in to Once's stream. We got it at twitch.tv/Oncinluv. Be sure to go ahead and check it out. Go ahead and give him a follow. We would appreciate your support. That is it, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. It's your boy Childish and Untitled with ChildishPlays checking out. Take care, and we will see you next time, guys. We're out.
Cheers, guys.